Welcome to the third episode of today's Candor. I'm your host, Barika. And in this episode, I'll be discussing the concept of not dimming yourself or your personality in order to fit in. Before I get into this essential topic, I just want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for taking the time to listen. So let's go ahead and dive in. Before I really get into my main points of this topic, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page because I've heard from time to time people are misconstruing what dimming yourself and maybe working on yourself are. They're trying to mix these two concepts and they have nothing to do with each other. So before we dive in, I just want to throw this disclaimer out. Dimming yourself is doing just that. It is trying to change who you are or not show your individuality in order to fit in. Working on yourself, polishing yourself, whether it's for a healing journey, personal growth, whatever the case may be, completely different. That's a positive. You want to always be on a personal growth journey because when you stop learning, you stop living. So let's go ahead and dive into this concept. Let's dive into why you shouldn't be dimming yourself or your personality to fit in. And that can be anywhere, whether it's in the workplace. There are so many cliques and silos in the workplace, or just, in your personal world, you shouldn't want to be fitting in either. So let's start by just pointing out, or just ask yourself if this is something that maybe you have had a hard time with or something that you may be conflicted with. Why would you want to fit in, right? Why would you want to turn off essentially your personality, your shining light, just the different talents and gifts and skills that you may have? Why would you want to dim those things down to fit into somewhere? Every time I hear the word click, it's something that I don't like the word. I don't like it, whether it's in a workspace or if it's something in, something personally. And the reason I don't like it is because usually it comes with a negative connotation. And for me, when you are trying to turn yourself down, like dim yourself, essentially, you are trying to fit yourself into a space because for some reason you think where you are, people will not like you. They will not accept you as you are. You're almost telling yourself subliminally that you are not good enough for something, that maybe those people or that space you're trying to fit into, they won't like you. But why? Why do that to yourself? And I always say, if you are unable to, quote unquote, fit into that space that you are trying to dim yourself down, fit into that space, you don't belong there. So it's not that you should be trying to figure out why I don't fit in. You should be saying to yourself or asking yourself, I don't belong in this space, and that's okay. Whether it's because you are just around people who are on a lower frequency, you may have outgrown people, so whether that's friends, family, what have you. So it's something that you shouldn't want to do because then you don't get to tap in to your higher self. When you're trying to dim your light and dumb yourself down, you are literally trying to turn yourself into you're trying to turn yourself into something else instead of going the other way and growing or, as I mentioned before, healing. You're trying to take yourself the other way, and it essentially won't be good for you. So be able to show up and be unique and show your individuality. And when you're having a tough time with this, ask yourself, why would I want to fit in? Why would I want to be in a space that these people or this place, it doesn't make you feel good. It's throwing your gut off. So ask yourself that the next time you're trying to change who you are. Don't sit there and look at yourself as if something is wrong with you. And I'm a firm believer in jotting things down, whether it's actually writing them down or if you want to type it up. But when you take the time to dump things onto paper, you get to see it right in front of you instead of trying to keep everything in your brain and figure it out. You get to look at it, you get to refer to it, even if you have to write it down and come back a couple days later so that you can really understand and evaluate what you just jotted down. So sometimes you have to do that to say, why am I trying to fit into this space? Who is making me feel this way? That may be something helpful. The next point that I want to bring up about this is when you bring your individuality to the table or just to a larger community, group, larger platform, this gives you a chance to dig deeper and discover other nuances about yourself that you may not have discovered yet. You get to really tap in and say, who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? You get to find maybe other gifts that you weren't aware of, or even if you knew you had these gifts, maybe you weren't referring to them as such because you were too busy dimming your light. So you might not have seen it as a gift because you were saying, well, isn't this normal? Doesn't everyone have this, or most people? And I can speak to that. So when you bring out this individuality and this uniqueness, you literally get to find, or even if you're not finding and just discovering them, you get to sit back and say, literally point out, this is a gift. This is a talent. This is a skill I have. What about this particular gift makes me tick? Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to share this? So it's something that you should want to continue to do as far as just studying who you are and bringing out that individuality, because you never know, one, what you might find about yourself, what you might discover about yourself, but also who in turn that may help, because we never know who's watching or listening to us. You never know whether it be at work or you're just out and about, you never know who's listening to something that you might be saying or doing, someone who's just observing you. And for whatever reason, that gift of yours gets it makes them feel a way, makes them maybe feel better, because we don't know what others are going through. We never know what other people are going through. So you never know what you might be doing, and just being your normal self and bringing out your uniqueness instead of hiding it and shuttering it away. You never know what that may do for you. It's very elevating. It's just a liberating feeling. And it can really take you to the next level that maybe you've been seeking, because you are no longer trying to shut out who you really are to fit in. So always remember to just, once again, if it's something that is hard for you to do, difficult for you to maybe grasp the concept or to just understand or realize or point out, write it down. It's very helpful. It is very helpful writing things down, or like I said, even if you like to type things, type it up so that you can see it right in front of you and refer back to it. The next point that I'd like to go into is just, even if we think that someone has, as a matter of fact, let me rewind. I want to go back and talk about when I stated that sometimes we don't see our gifts as gifts or our talents as talents, our skills as skills. Sometimes we just think it's, the norm to have these things. I want to go back to that before moving into my next point. I mentioned in my intro episode when I first launched this podcast, I mentioned that it took me a while to realize and start referring to just talking to people as one of my gifts. I thought it is something that, maybe people or most people know how to make another person feel comfortable, listen, communicate. In my mind, as a teenager, going into my 20s, I'm thinking, well, shouldn't people, or most people, because we know nothing is all, shouldn't most people know how to communicate? And then you start to live a little and you see that people don't know how to communicate with each other, that people don't understand it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And a very rare trait that I see in people is we refer to it as empathy, but a lot of people also refer to it as just being able to put yourself in another person's shoes. And most people don't have that emotional intelligence. I have been around so many people who they are so selfish. It is so hard for them to just say, let me just sit down for a minute, reel it all in, reevaluate, and put myself in that person's shoes. And it's not about understanding every little piece of what they are trying to convey to you, but being able to be empathetic, being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, it is a gift. And while a lot of people like to walk around and refer to themselves as empaths, some of those people shouldn't. I'm speaking from just personal experience. A lot of people are not able to just sit back and say, let me listen to what this person has to say. Let me really take it in instead of always being ready to talk, always being ready to give feedback. Sometimes that other person doesn't need that. So when people were saying to me, Barika, you are such a great listener, so approachable, warm, you just make me feel comfortable to come talk to you without feeling judged, without feeling regretful as if I shouldn't have come to you. When I kept hearing this, I said, I really have to sit down and understand that this is a gift, that people want to come to me so that I can put something in perspective for them, or they know that they won't be judged when they bring whatever it is that they want to discuss, or just lean on me for a listening ear. I had to really say, this is something that you have. This is a gift you have that you need to share with a larger platform. It took me a very long time to start referring to it as such. Sometimes you just wake up. One day you just wake up, something just hits you right upside your head, and you say, you know what? I need to start really tapping into myself. I really had to start tapping into Barika so that I could not only heal, but share this gift with others. Whether it's in, just something quick where it's just someone asking me something at work, or on a larger platform such as my podcast. And one of my very close friends from high school said to me just the other day that in creating this podcast, it will not only allow me to speak to other people and have this as a virtual safe space, if you will, but it'll also allow me to heal and grow in doing so. And I told her at first, I didn't even look at it that way. I viewed it as just me being able to help others. But I didn't know that also that this could help me. And she was so right, because I love being able to just put down episode ideas and just create this platform. I'm loving it so far. And it's so early. This is only episode 3, but I have loved the entire process of just creating it from when the thought first popped into my head and into actually launching this. So shout out to her. She know who she is. That will lead me into my next point. So I want to talk a little bit about, sometimes people will, say, well, I have the same skills or gifts as most people. Just like I was saying, don't people know how to communicate? Or why is this a gift? I'm just merely giving a little bit of advice. That's how I would see it. But what I had to really understand was that no, it's not the same. Because although someone may have the same gift of being able to put things in perspective, being able to share advice, being able to make someone feel comfortable and not judged, me and person B are going to do it completely different because one, our minds think differently, and two, our makeup is just different. It's just different. So there's no way that just because I have the same gift as the next person, that I'm going to deliver it the same. The delivery is where you have to understand that's your uniqueness. That's where your individuality comes in. That's where you get to really shine by saying, my delivery is going to be different. And then you can continue to tweak it to exactly how you want it to be. And that's the other thing. Person A and person B are going to also work on their gifts differently. They're going to tweak them differently. They're going to share them differently. So when you think that you and the next person have the same talent or skill, yes, it may be the same concept, the same thing, singing, giving people advice, counseling, whatever the case may be. You might be good with money, So, but your delivery is what changes the game. It's what makes you different. And that's why I'm saying, wanting to fit in, be okay with being the oddball, if you will. I know that may sound crazy, but be okay with it. I've gotten very used to it with other things just because there are times where people will ask me stuff. Like, for example, I don't smoke or drink, but I don't care who else does it. It doesn't bother me if you do it, as long as you're not doing it excessively, right? But I don't smoke or drink. So people are always asking, what do you mean you don't drink? There are some people who understand it right off the bat. No, I don't drink. It's not my thing. And, some people don't understand it because they're like, well, if you've had a hard day at work, how does that work? Or if you're stressed or if you're this or you're that, we all cope with things differently. Our coping mechanisms are different. So, I've been used to being the oddball for some time now. And, I have my personal reasons why I don't drink. But once again, the next person who does it doesn't faze me. I don't care. So it's just, you have to be okay with making decisions, whether it is about a gift or just something else. You have to be okay with saying, this is what my gut is telling me to do. My instincts are telling me to do this. I feel good about it. And you have to be able to stand on that. You have to be able to stand on that without validation. You have to be able to stand on that without somebody giving you a pat on your back. You have to just be able to say, I'm okay with this because my gut is telling me. It's not emotion based. And you have to be able to move forward without anyone giving you an okay, even if you don't have any support behind a particular decision. So this isn't just about fitting in with, your gifts and talents. This is just in life in general. You have to be able to make that decision to be your individual self and love it and hone in on it and continue to grow with it. Being unique is just what makes you special. That's the way that you have to be able to see it. You have to be able to view it that way. And I will always say, none of this is about it being easy. It takes time to get here. It does. I would never lie and tell anyone any different. It takes time to get to a space where you can trust your gut, trust your instinct. That will be another episode. But it takes time to be able to say, you know what? I'm okay with not fitting in. I'm okay with being Barika, or, you're okay with just being who you are. So another story, I like to include stories so that it can bring everything home, bring it full circle. And because I like to either give a personal experience, or if I'm giving another experience from someone that I know, names will never be given, those individuals will stay anonymous. However, I like to be able to provide a story and some experience because it does bring the topic full circle. So this is something very current for me and this is my personal experience that I'm going to talk about, where I currently work. I am in charge of supervising the front area. So, lobby, reception area always needs to be tight, polished, needs to be ready to go for our clients. So I supervise this area. And like anything else, just as when we were kids and our parents would say to us, you represent us, you are a representation of us, same goes. Your team, if you're a supervisor, your team is a representation of you. Whether it's 1, 10, 20, 50 people, your team is a representation of you as a supervisor, as a leader. And if that person or people are not doing what they need to do, it reflects upon you. Now, of course, yes, some of it doesn't, because then you start to get into, does somebody have a character? There might be a flaw. And if that person or people are not willing to work on that flaw or step into a personal growth journey, honestly, there's so much that supervisor can do, especially when it comes to older individuals, because as we know, the older we get, the more molded we are. So let's get into this story. I noticed that the lobby, the front desk area, that reception area, to me, was not as professional as it should be. It was not as professional as I needed it to be to make our clients feel welcomed, to make them feel like they're stepping into a warm space, a judge-free zone. I was seeing and observing so many things that honestly, I was taken aback. It blew me away. And when I see things where people are blatantly talking down or looking down upon other people, it's very bothersome for me. It hurts me because you can always be on the other side. So I was noticing a lot of hurtful comments being said towards other employees, and just the lack of professionalism towards the clients. And me, when I observe something, I don't go off the first or second day. I'm going to observe it for a little while, jot some notes down, document some things, because I want to see if there's a pattern or if a person had a bad day or two. So that's just who I am. That's just who I am as a person. So I started to document these things, with everything, time, day. Clients would want to speak to me about how they felt, if, that they were being mistreated or looked down upon. And I wanted to document all of these things because you have to be able to build your case when you're seeking change. So I wanted to have everything documented that was necessary. And I did this over about a course of a month. I would intervene here and there because, of course, I didn't want it to go but for so long with clients constantly telling me that they were upset or felt like they didn't belong when they would walk through the door. All of these things. But I wanted to make sure that I had a sufficient amount of information in order to build this case I needed to go to my supervisor. I didn't want 2 days worth of data trying to say, oh, hey, this is what I'm seeing. No. Once again, is this a bad day or two, or is this an actual pattern that needs to be changed? So I wanted to make sure that I was doing things correctly. I also wanted to make sure that I was following protocol. So for me, communication is just the foundation of anything, the foundation of any relationship. So I wanted to speak to who I supervise in order to say, this is what I'm observing. This is what we need to fix. Let's just work on these things. Let's make it more welcoming. Excuse me, because people are coming in with personal issues and they don't need someone looking down on them as if we're not better than anyone. So I wanted to make that very clear. And once I started to speak more about let's make the front more professional, let's provide better customer service, let's do these different things to better the environment, people started looking at me funny. Coworkers, I'm talking about, stopped speaking to me, whether that was a simple good morning or whatever the case, how was your weekend, all these things. There were people who loved the fact that I wanted to come in and change how the front was and make it more professional. They loved it. And then you had the clique who was very, that look. Who does she think she is? Who are you to come in here and tell us we're not professional? Simple fact is, it's not telling you that you aren't professional. I'd like to make it more professional than it is. And I was always taught, if the shoe fits, wear it. So if I've not come directly to you and you're wondering who someone thinks they are because a work environment should be that, it's not about it being uptight and that you can never laugh and joke. But there's a time and a place for everything. And you only get one first impression. You don't get to do it twice. So there were people who started to, who that look, like I said, who does Barika think she is? And stop speaking to me, all these things. I wasn't fazed. Long story short, I wasn't fazed at all. Few reasons why I wasn't fazed. One, when I go to work for two things. I go to work to do my job first, because that's what I thought we were supposed to be doing. So I go to work to do my job first. I go there to do it to the best of my ability. And I go to then get paid. So I go to do my job and I go to get paid. I don't go to work to double dutch with anybody. I'm not there to make friends. I'm not there to try to figure out who does and does not like me. If we form a bond, fabulous. And if we don't, that's fine too. Because it's not the first reason I'm there. I'm there to do my job and, of course, get paid. So I'm not there looking to make friends. I'm not there trying to figure out who likes me. I'm not there trying to figure out who likes my outfit. None of those things matter. I'm there to do the job. I'm there to help people. And anyone who cannot get with the program, that's fine. We don't need to speak. I'm going to do my job for the clients. And at the end of the day, I tell people, you have to be okay with this. Those who stopped speaking and this and that, no, hey, Barika, your outfit is so cute and all these things, great. Stop speaking, because you can take that negative energy with you. I don't need the phoniness, because from what I can see, because I wanted the front to be more professional and I wanted us to have a great first impression when people walk through that door, from what I could see, the people who stopped speaking to me, you were trying to see if you would be able to manipulate and see if I wanted to be in your clique. No, ma'am, I don't. When you're good within yourself, I say all this to say, when you're good within yourself and you're good with your gut feeling, those who start to move differently around you in a negative way based off of your actions or just what impact you're having, that's their issue. That's not your issue. People who start to move differently because they don't like that you are trying to make something better, change it for the better. The ones who stop speaking, your followers, right? Because it's automatically, oh, why is Barika coming in here looking to do this, looking to do that? Think for yourself and sit back if need be and say, well, Barika wants it more professional because it's a work environment. We have clients and visitors and people from the board coming in. So why should you be at the front, which is the first impression, acting a complete fool or having conversations that you should not be having at work? If so, take it in your office, or can we wait until after 5 o'clock? It's very simple. This is not rocket science. So when people start to look at you funny or treat you differently because you are having a positive impact, and then they can't think for themselves, oh, why is this happening? They're followers. Let them do that. Once again, it removes that negative energy away from you. At the end of the day, right is right and wrong is wrong. Being a leader and being able to be coachable is where you want to be. You don't want to be a follower. That's also a different episode. So I want to wrap up with, you all know that I've mentioned, I love quotes. I love different things that I see on Pinterest or just wherever. Unfortunately, sometimes it won't state who said the quote, but I do like to make it very clear that it is a quote and not something that I created. But this is something that I saw online, and it says, unfortunately, some people were not put here to evolve. They are here to remind you what it looks like if you don't. Let me just say it one more time. Unfortunately, some people were not put here to evolve. They are here to remind you what it looks like if you don't. With that being said, that story I just gave about the lack of professionalism, many of those people, they have not or will not evolve because they're stuck where they are, mentally stuck. They're mentally stuck where they are, and they are followers. But when you see people like that, no matter where it is, whether it is in your workplace, like I explained, or if it's something personal you're dealing with, those people are there to remind you what it looks like if you don't evolve. Will you be stuck? Will you be a follower? Will you dim your light? Will you shutter out who you really are and your personality to fit into somewhere where you don't belong? And that doesn't just go for work. That goes for maybe a circle of friends, or if you think they are your friends, but maybe really not. That goes for, are you trying to fit yourself into a relationship where you don't belong? Are you, wherever, it just doesn't pertain to one part of life. Are you dimming yourself down to try to fit somewhere where essentially you shouldn't be, where you don't belong? And your gut tells you. It does. Your gut tells you. So I want to leave you all with that. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I appreciate you taking the time, all the support, all the love that I've been getting. I really appreciate it. Continue to connect with me on Instagram at Today's Candor. Of course, you can follow my podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, and more. It is on all of the major platforms. And until next time, I want you all to stay safe and stay candid. Thank you.